that life is really short. The cost benefit analysis of him rejecting me versus having the opportunity to get to know him was worth the risk I took. And it paid off.
Welcome to Real Talk with Michael and Lisa.
You know the truth about relationships? They hurt us.
I thought we encouraged people to get into relationships because that's where they got healing.
We do. But what we have found is that some people are afraid to step into relationship. They're not stepping into relationship.
You know, I think I've seen that. I was about ready to say I've experienced that before, but I wasn't willing to go there. I think I've seen that before, speaking from a friend's point of view.
Yeah. So we actually have had well over 200 students in our dating discovery class. And one of the homework assignments is we asked them to identify their top 10 fears about stepping into a relationship.
Wow. And you know, they sound a whole lot like my fears. There was a lot of familiarity as they would tell us different things. And honestly, we've discovered that all of their fears, like 80% of them, are the same across the board.
Yeah, they're pretty common. They're not necessarily unique to them unless they've had trauma. So we found that people are afraid, first and foremost, of rejection. Who's not afraid of rejection, right? Why else are people afraid?
Yeah, people aren't going to be safe. The person they're risking relationship, they're not going to be safe. You know, we get afraid that we're going to get it wrong. Yeah. Either we're going to say something wrong, or we're going to hurt them unintentionally, or they're going to be the wrong person for us.
I think some people actually are struggling to trust themselves.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, and some of that is based on past mistakes that they've made, and they don't want to make the same mistake. Yeah. And we're not just talking in romantic relationships. Like we all actually even have fears about friendships, about like business partnerships.
I like what you said about mistakes, because you know, we learn how to do relationship from the people we're closest to. And if the people that we grew up that we were closest to had really dysfunctional relationships, we don't want to repeat those things, and we don't really know. And you know, I had great parents. I had wonderful parents.
You still do.
And I still do. And there's even things that I'm still learning that they didn't teach me.
Yeah.
I mean, here's one thing about fear. The devil is a liar, and he is the mastermind of fear. So fear is a lie. What do we do?
Well, I think that anything that is worth pursuing in life is going to include some level of risk.
Risk. So, that sounds so fun. Yay!
I remember, hey, I want to tell a personal story. I remember, so if any of you guys have not heard our story before, Michael and I were both widowed in 2015. A year later, I was in relationship with somebody else, a long distance relationship, and a year after that, I broke it off. And my daughter, who was 15 at the time, a week after I broke up with this guy, she said, "Mom, when you're ready to date again, let me know, because I have a friend who has a good-looking dad."
I had her on commission.
He didn't even know about me.
I did. Actually, I met Becca. I didn't even really meet Becca. She was a group of 4 or 5 girls that were doing shot put and discus together with my daughter, and I was at every practice cheering for them.
I shelved it. I didn't ask her about it till over a month later, and then when I asked her, I was like, "Oh, who was that you were talking about?" So she told me who it was. She actually even showed me a picture, his Facebook profile picture, and I was like, "Oh, you weren't kidding." So then I decided to do some pre-search.
And you know, I was just looking on Facebook Messenger. November 10th, she reached out with a message to just say, "Hey, we've had similar experiences. We're both widowed. We both have teenage kids. ever want to have an opportunity to get together and talk?
Might be therapeutic. Yeah.
Yeah, I just read that message yesterday.
And do you know that before I actually, it was a week before that I sent you a friend request. And when he didn't respond after a week, there was no indication that he'd looked at any of my stuff, knew who I was. I went ahead and reached out. And really part of the energy behind that was I didn't feel like I had anything to lose, in the sense that...
Well, let's clarify, because she did have something to lose if I rejected her, but she knew what she had to gain was bigger than what she had to lose.
Yeah, after I had checked you out on social media, I was able to assess that you were really a quality person.
Not that I was a better option than loss, but she...
But I had actually already at that point determined that he was somebody who was worth getting to know. He was a quality person. He was a man who loved God, loved his family, was a family man, had loved his late wife, seemed ready.
She's not in commission to say any of this either. This is awesome.
He seemed ready to date. He was fit. He was adventurous. He was living his best life. And I was like, wow, I really wanted a chance to get to know this person. Did I take a risk in friending him? I did. However, let me frame this for you. The context was I had already lost my husband. And when you experience a tragedy and you realize that life is really short, the cost-benefit analysis of him rejecting me versus having the opportunity to get to know him was worth the risk I took. And it paid off. It happened to pay off for me, which is great.
It paid off, but it wasn't an immediate payoff.
No, it was an adventure, and there were times that emotionally it felt like a roller coaster for me. However, it still was worth it. And what we've learned with our students is what is it going to take for them to get over that initial, okay, it's going to be worth it, to step over and through the fear.
We teach our students, and what we did, Lisa stepped into a pretty big measure of discomfort to reach out like that. And if we had more time to tell the whole story, there's a lot of details of discomfort here and there. And I knew that she was reaching out, and I honored that, but I wasn't sure where I was. And I had my own reservations and my own thoughts of, am I ready for a relationship right now? Is this someone that I want to invest in? I don't want to lead her on, because I had been recently, or 6 months earlier, I'd been accused of being a player a few different times. And that was painful. I know I had thought I'd just shown up honestly myself, and people had assumed stuff. And
you wanted to protect me too, and you wanted to protect my heart.
So I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want to get hurt. There are all these different layers of fear that we were running around that were influencing us getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we did get to know each other. That happened because Lisa was willing to take risk. She was willing to be uncomfortable. And I was willing to meet her there. And there was about a 6-week transition period where I was like, okay, I'm willing to explore this. And I was investing in relationship with Lisa, and I didn't have passion or feelings around it at all at first. Now, by the end of 6 weeks, there was definitely something there, and there was transition during the 6 weeks. But I was like, okay, she's being very intentional. I'm not feeling anything. I'm feeling like she could be a great friend, but I'm not feeling anything more. But I chose to step into relationship. Now, I certainly defined it as friendship to protect me and to protect her. But I stepped in and I took risk of exploring, is there something more here?
Yeah. And if you know a little bit more about our story, it's actually been incredibly beautiful and redemptive. And so we want to encourage you, whether you are single and you're wanting to have an amazing, beautiful marriage that just exemplifies redemption like ours, whether you're just wanting to have more deep connected friends, whether you want to be part of community, whether you want to be in relationship in a community, whether you want to be in a mentorship or mentee relationship, either way, it's going to require risk. Our breakthrough came at the expense of risk. Yeah. And we have experienced that with our students as well. For those, we actually, when we feel that students are in a place that they are ready, we actually challenge them to step over fear and into risk. And what are some of the testimonies that we've heard?
Oh my gosh. It's so much fun to hear someone give the testimony that they hadn't gone on a date in 5 or 10 years. And we challenged them to ask a few people out.
There's a gal in our class right now. She hadn't gone on a date in 5 years. And last week she went on 3 dates.
Yeah. And the cool thing was we encouraged her strongly to ask a couple guys out. And then she had to, in that process, she had a couple guys ask her out. Like, all of a sudden, she had the courage to step into the arena, which attracted people stepping into the arena.
And we have another student who was in our class this time last year. She experienced the same thing. And her testimony of another student asked her, said, well, what did that look like for you? And she said, I actually went on 20 dates last year. And so
how many dates had she gone on in the 10 years before that?
I think that was more. I think 20 was more. Yeah. And so, what they find is when they're challenged and they step over fear, it translates into other areas of their life. It translates into their career, maybe education opportunities, other types of business breakthroughs and stuff. And they discover their heart. They discover that the stakes can be lower. They discover that things aren't as overwhelming as they seem, right? Overall, it just seems easier. They've really learned to step through fear. It translates. And so we just want to encourage you that whatever is keeping you from stepping into relationship at any level.
Be honest about it. Bring some community in to let them know.
Yeah, and they get some feedback. Yeah. And we challenge you to go for it. We challenge you to take one step this week that's going to lead to your breakthrough and partnering with God and seeing what can happen.
Yeah. And one cool thing, if you're not ready to dive into a relationship, that's a big risk. Find something small. Find something small to start with. Get your toes in the water and keep stretching that risk. Keep stretching that courage. You can do it. We know that what is on the other side of taking that risk is worth it. And we want to hear all about you're taking risk, what you found on the other side. Sometimes we fall flat on our face, but also the dreams that we have are on the other side.
Yeah.
We love you guys so much. Let us know in the comments what your experience has been around this.
Have a great day. Should we redo that?